For the past few years, I've strictly worn this little square G-Shock here. And now I've flirted with various automatics like Seiko's or Citizen, but after a week or so, I always just come back to this watch right here. And this G-Shock just does everything right. It's not fancy or flashy, and honestly, it kind of lacks a lot of modern conveniences that more modern smartwatches have, but that's kind of the charm here. This is solar powered, so no need to ever charge it or swap out the batteries or remember to put it on the charger at the end of the day. This also has multi-band 6, so it automatically syncs up the time through radio waves, so it's always the most accurate. But the biggest reason I love this watch is just the simple reliability of it all. This is a G-Shock, meaning this can be put up to almost anything and still come away with almost without a single scratch. These have been down to the depths of the ocean, into the dark corners of space, and just continue to perform without a single issue. I've always found that the square G-Shocks like this one just have to be up there with the best you can get. First, you have a digital display, so extremely quick to read, just at a really fast glance. Nice information like the day, the month, and the battery level. And also due to the size and profile, it's extremely comfortable on all wrist sizes, and due to the low profile, it really easily slips under a long sleeve shirt or a jacket. And you pair that with the other features like I mentioned, this Casio M5610U is just the best watch money can buy in my opinion. At least that's what I thought. Because for several years, this watch was perfect, and in many ways it still is. But that is until I happened to stumble on a video over this watch late one night. And now side by side, they look almost identical. But don't let looks fool you, because this actually adds quite a bit new features under the hood. But these upgrades do not come cheap, and in fact, this watch costs around double the price of this one. And better yet, you can't even pick this one up stateside yet, and I had to order this one directly from Japan. So steep upfront cost and long wait times for shipping. Is this even a worthwhile upgrade? I actually think so, and to be honest, I'm kind of blown away with this watch, and I think it's the best G-Shock ever made, and today we're going to find out exactly why. So let's check this guy out. So first things first, this is not going to be the most in-depth review of this watch out there. There's just so much here and little features and modes, it's just all kind of beyond me. I only just received this watch a few days ago, so I'm still kind of learning here, but I'm just too eager to share it with you guys, hence this early video. If you guys want a more in-depth video of this watch in the future, let me know and I can see what I can do. But for me, the biggest upgrade on this watch is the display. Initially at first, they look very similar, but after looking at these at different angles, you can kind of start to see the difference. This watch right here uses an LCD display, and it's extremely crisp and legible in almost every light and angle. But there are some times we can look down at your wrist and you can see the downside of the LCD screen here. Because sometimes you can see a little bit of a bleed through or faint ghosting of the numbers, which makes it a little bit hard to read. Fortunately, this newer model, which is called the BX5600 by the way, this resolves that issue as this now features an MIP or memory in pixel display. And right off the bat, it's much more clear. With this new display, you can view the screen from almost any angle and always tell the time, just making it much superior to the previous model in my opinion. I'll try to insert some background shots of these watches side by side and at different angles so you can kind of see for yourself. I do have a little bit of a criticism with this display though. It's not as perfect as I thought it would be. For one, when I unboxed this, I felt like this display was a little bit darker than the previous one. Under direct light or indoor or outdoor, the display is super bright and crisp. But in my office here at my desk in this corner, not under direct overhead light, this display just looks a little bit darker compared to this one. And for some reason, my previous square just feels a little bit brighter when the light isn't directly overhead. There's still enough features coming up that I can definitely overlook this, but it's something to keep in mind. The rest of the display and face here is very similar, with very few small changes. For one, there's several different modes you can cycle through should you prioritize seeing the date in different formats or want to see the world time at a glance. My favorite display is right here because I can have the world time in this tiny top corner. My wife is from Brazil, so I like having Brazil time here in the top just to see what time it is back home, maybe if I want to message her family or something. Outside of this channel, my hobby, my next passion is actually traveling, so having the option to having two different world times here displayed is just really big for me. I typically travel with this watch right here, and I always found it a little bit hard to change the time when arriving in a different country, so I just mentally calculate the time by looking at the watch, thinking my time back home and just adding or subtracting. But now with this watch, I don't really need to do that. I can just simply set the world time and be good to go. And now still on the topic of display, another big advantage here is being able to change the font and display. For example, you can have the more digital style font like on this older one, or you can update to the more clean modern font, which I actually prefer. You're unable to change the font on the watch itself. Instead, you actually have to change it through the app on your phone, which actually leads me to the next point, Bluetooth. Love it or hate it, this watch now comes with Bluetooth technology. And in watching videos and reading lots of reviews over this watch before I bought mine, it appears people have some very, very strong opinions over this. For me, I'm kind of the minority, and I think it's a pretty big plus personally. For one, once you connect to the app, you can change the time, change your world time cities, change the font face, add a timer, etc. I think it's just so much more convenient than clicking and holding down these little small buttons here on the sides and setting everything up that way. And once you set it up once, you don't even need to use the app again if you don't want to. Bluetooth is there if you need it, but if you don't, then you don't even have to worry about it. I find it so much more user-friendly to switch over the app to change something, and I actually welcome this change. The app is fairly basic, but really easy to navigate, and setup was extremely fast. I will say to view the battery percentage on the watch, you have to see it on the app, unlike on here on the front display on this previous one. Now with Bluetooth, this features a super helpful little function, which is Phone Finder. Should you ever misplace your phone, you can actually click and hold this button in the bottom right for 5 seconds, and your phone will send out a little chime so you can locate it. I've tested this and confirmed it works even when your phone is on silent. It's a very similar feature, something on like an Apple Watch, so I love seeing it on a more robust G-Shock like this. Outside of the inclusion of Bluetooth and the new MIP display and the upgraded visuals on this front screen, this is very much cut from the same cloth as the previous watch. In fact, they almost look identical, but in fact, this new watch is just a tad larger specs-wise, but on the wrist, I really can't notice it at all. Build quality is almost exactly the same, but in terms of construction, I think I actually prefer my old watch. This new one features a resin case and band made from biorenewable materials. Think like organic matter, like corn products and the like. So that's kind of cool on one hand. But on the other, this previous strap just feels a lot softer and more comfortable. Again, a super small detail, but just something I thought was interesting. It might be that this is more worn in and broken in, but this older square also looks so much more darker and more black than this newer one that almost looks a little bit more gray. But in the grand scheme of things, these are almost identical in size and looks. So with all these new features, like the MIP display, the Bluetooth, the changed visuals, how much will all this set you back? For starters, this watch is around $120, $160. And for that, I think it's a steal. But this new model is coming in a bit more expensive at a bit over the $200 mark. And that's if you can actually find it. This model actually came out late last year and was supposed to be released in the US earlier this year. Yet we're now in July of 2026 and this still hasn't been released to retailers here. At the time of this recording, you can only find this watch in Japan. I ended up buying this from a Japanese seller on eBay and having it shipped halfway around the world to me just because I couldn't wait to try it out. And after shipping, I think I ended up paying around $218, so definitely not a simple, cheap G-Shock like I'm used to. So after having it in hand and wearing it for a little bit, was this worth the hefty price increase over this one? I'm going to say yes and no. I absolutely love it and I think it's a worthwhile upgrade, but that's for me and my use cases. You might not travel like me, need to see the world times like this, and have no use for Bluetooth. And in that case, I think this is definitely an overpay. But for me, I can kind of justify the cost. It's just be the next watch I wear, hopefully for the next 5 or 10 years, and I'll sell this one off to help offset some of that cost. I think it's a really big shame that these haven't been released in the US yet, and I can only hope they are in the future because this watch is absolutely fantastic. At the end of the day, I really believe this is simply one of, if not the best Casio G-Shocks to ever been released. It has every feature I could want, yet still maintains a small, slim profile of the classic original square G-Shock. And though I definitely wish this was a bit cheaper and easier to obtain, I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait to see this on my wrist for the foreseeable future. But I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this watch down in the comments below, because this definitely seems like a decisive watch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.